Hi, everybody. I'm calling this lesson 4.5 because it is a way that we can use algebraically to find the axis of symmetry, which is the number that goes right through the middle of a parabola. Let me show you what I'm talking about. On the page, I have her here right now. By the way, this is not in your books. You're just going to follow along with note paper. I have a parabola, and I can see that its zeros are x equals 0 and x equals 8 because it's going through the x-axis at 0 and at 8, okay? I can also see this fake hidden line that goes in between the two sides of the parabola. This is called the axis of symmetry. Okay, and it is kind of like if you held up a mirror to one side of the parabola, it would look exactly the same on the other side. Think about it like a book. So you have the middle binding of the book, and that would be the axis of symmetry for a book because the two sides come together. Now, the axis of symmetry actually has an equation. And as you can see, you all know that we have a vertical line. It is x equals. So in this case, the axis of symmetry is x equals 2. Now that's all fine when we have a graph, but many times we don't have a graph. And today's lesson is going to be super quick and easy, and it is using the axis of symmetry formula equation to be able to find the axis of symmetry equation and then to use that to find the vertex. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So let me show you what we have here. The equation of an axis of symmetry, the vertical line that separates the graph into two congruent halves, that's making it symmetrical, is x equals negative b over 2a. So write that down, and we'll move on to an example. Okay. So I'm being asked to find the vertex and the axis of symmetry for the given parabola. Let's start with the axis of symmetry. So I wrote over here on the side the formula for the axis of symmetry, which is negative b over 2a. No matter what the b term is, it's always going to be negative that number. Now, just remember that we have ax squared plus bx plus c. So the b term in this case is going to be negative 8, and the C term, and the A term in this case is going to be 1. We actually don't have to worry about the C term in this example because we don't need C term. We don't care about it. Don't care. All I care about is the B term and the A term. So what am I going to do for the formula? I'm going to write it out as negative. My B term is negative 8 over 2 times the A term, which is 1. That equals positive 8 over 2, which equals 4. Now, actually, I didn't mean to do this. That previous problem, yes, that previous problem was not the same as this problem. This is also has a axis symmetry of 4. Okay, so the formula for the axis of symmetry is x equals 4, the equation, and you always write it as an equation, x equals 4. Okay, I'm going to move on, and I'm going to go back to the vertex and a few questions, I believe. Okay, so I have a few questions here. We're going to determine the axis of symmetry for each of these using the formula x equals negative b over 2a. Okay, so let's do this. So if it helps you, make a little table off to the side. We have b equals 8, and we have a equals 2. So my formula, I'm going to plug it in, is going to be negative 8 over 2 times 2. So I'm left with negative 8 over 4. So therefore, let me get this down here. Beautiful. So therefore, we're left with negative 2. So x equals negative 2 is my equation of the axis of symmetry. Okay, next one, B. I have my A term. No, sorry, my B term is 6, and my A term is -3. So I'm going to plug it into the equation. So I'm left with -6 over 2 times -3. I'm going to clean it up. I'm left with -6 over -6. So therefore, x equals +1. That is my correct. That is my correct axis of symmetry. All right. Any questions so far? Okay. So the third question is. Now I have a fraction. No big deal. We can do this. I'm going to have my A term, my B term, I always start with B, is -4, and my A term is 1/2. Don't let that worry you. We can do this without a calculator. I don't need a calculator for this. So what am I left with? The formula is negative B, which is -4, over 2 times 1/2. Well, I know negative times negative is positive, so I'm left with 4 over 2 times 1/2 is just 1. So my axis of symmetry in this case is x equals 4. Okay. I'm going to move on to the next question. So now I'm being given an equation, and they're asking me more questions. They're asking us also for the coordinates of the vertex. So how would I do that? If I need to do it algebraically, I have to use the axis of symmetry formula. I'm going to plug it in to the equation. And then it's also asking us whether or not it's a maximum or minimum. So let's start with the vertex. So let's just start with the vertex. So the first thing I need is I need the axis of symmetry. I'm going to write AOS, okay? So I'm going to use this formula right here, this equation, x squared minus 6x plus 10. So the B term is -6, and my A term is 1. So I'm going to plug it into the formula. So I'm left with -6 over 2 times 1, and I'm left with 3. So x equals 3. What am I going to do with that information to find the vertex? I'm going to plug it into y equals 3 squared minus 6 times 3 plus 10. Plug it in for x. So I'm left with 9 minus 18 plus 10, 19 minus 18. Therefore, y equals 1. Okay, so I'm going to make these a little bit smaller because I just want to have room to do my final problem, which is whether it's a maximum or minimum. Let's see if I can make this smaller. I can, good. Okay, so there's that. Here's this. So I'm gonna move this here. Now, so I still haven't said what the vertex is as a coordinate, right? So my coordinate, I'm gonna make it a different color so we can see it. My coordinate point is gonna be 3, 1. X is 3, Y is 1, okay? Last question, is this a minimum or maximum? Remember, it's a minimum or maximum if the lead coefficient, the A term, is positive. It would be a minimum because it's going to be when A is greater than 0, it's going to be pointing upward. And if A is less than 0, it's going to be pointing downward. So easy enough. Let me make these smaller so I can get some room in here. So if the lead coefficient, A term, is positive, it's going to be a minimum. So I'm going to write down here, because it is positive, that it is a minimum because A is positive. Okay? I answered the vertex question by finding the axis of symmetry, and I plugged it in to find the y value. And then I said it was a minimum or maximum based on the fact that it is a positive lead coefficient. So let's try this second one on our own. Take a look at it, see whether you can answer it without my help, and then I'll do it. Pause if you need to. Okay, so let's start with the axis of symmetry. Axis of symmetry, we have our B term is 2, and our A term is -4. Okay, Okay, we're going to have a little bit of a fraction here. That's okay. So we're going to do negative 2 over 2 times negative 4. Why do they do this crazy number? I don't know. Let's keep going. It's no big deal. We can do this. We get negative 2 over negative 8, which becomes positive 1/4. Now, this is a great example of if I had gone to my calculator and tried to find the axis of symmetry on the calculator, meaning I'm trying to find the point that doesn't have a partner on the table, it wouldn't show up because it's a decimal. The x value is a decimal. It's 0.25. It wouldn't show up on my table. So this is a great example of why I need to do the axis symmetry. I can't just use my calculator to find my answer all the time. So let's find the vertex. No big deal. We're going to plug everything in. So we get, let me use a different color so we can see what I'm doing. So I'm left with negative 4 times 1/4 squared plus 2 times 1/4 minus 5. So let's see if we can do this without needing a calculator. I'm probably going to need one. 1/4 squared is going to be 1 over 16 plus 2 times 1/4 is going to be 1/2. That one I can do, minus 5. Then I have negative 4 times negative 16, which is going to be negative 4 over 16, which I can finish up to be 1/4. 1/4 plus 1/2 minus negative 5. And you know what I'm going to do right now? I'm going to use my calculator because I don't feel like doing the fractions in my head. So I'm going to go and I'm going to, either if I need to, I can change it into decimals, but I don't have to. 1/4 plus 1/2. So two small numbers minus 5. And I'm left with negative 4.25, sorry, 4.25. So what is my vertex? My vertex is going to be my x value I found, which was 1/4. Oops, see, I didn't mean to make a parenthesis there, sorry. And my y value is negative 4.25. No way would I have ever found this by looking at the calculator and looking at the graph. By the way, you know I don't like to have mixed, so I'm going to put 0.25 and negative 4.25, but that's fine. Is it a minimum or a maximum? Let's take a look at the equation, and I don't remember it anymore. So my lead coefficient is negative 4. So it's a maximum because my graph will be going upside down. Okay, so I'm going to write somewhere else here. Let me write it here. This is a maximum. Oh gosh, I didn't want to do that. It's a maximum because A is greater than, is less than 0. Sorry, is less than 0. Okay. And I believe that's it for me. So I have a worksheet for you all to do. It's on the Google Classroom. Just go ahead and do it. Most of the questions, I just want the axis of symmetry. I don't want to know the vertex because, you know, I just want you to be able to do this axis of symmetry problems really easily. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.